Hello, this is Chris Pratt from Eurogamer, and I visited Creative Assembly this week to take one last longing look at Total War Warhammer, ahead of its release at the end of the month. Whilst I was there, I had to chat with this man. His name's Bartholomew, and he's the studio's brand director. Now, if you've been following the news surrounding Total War Warhammer, you'll know that arguably the one big controversy that keeps cropping up with this game is the Chaos Warriors DLC. There are going to be 5 playable races at launch: the Empire, Dwarfs, Greenskins, Vampire Counts, and Chaos. But to play as Chaos, you'll need to own this DLC. We're not sure how much that'll cost yet, but it's being offered for free if you pre-order the game, and well, fans do not like the sound of that idea at all. Many players still feel really burnt by Total War Rome 2, which broke pre-order records for the franchise, only to launch in pretty poor shape. So last week, Creative Assembly announced that the Chaos Warriors DLC would be free to all players that purchase the game within the first week, essentially extending that pre-order incentive by 7 days, giving players the time to see in what stage the game launches. Clearly, the studio is paying attention to their fans here, but why suffer months of grief from those same fans before making this decision? Are pre-order incentives really worth all of that hassle? That's what we're going to try and find out.
So we thought we'd come up with a really interesting idea, really a great way of adding Chaos Warriors as a really big, fleshed out faction into Total War Warhammer, and help satisfy some of our marketing and sales needs by generating lots of pre-order and kind of first month sales interests from a sort of a commercial point of view. And we thought we'd thought of a really sort of clever way of doing that, and obviously not everybody agreed. And we kept a really close eye on that kind of conversations that progressed, while all the time thinking about how we might be able to do better by our fans and by the guys who were telling us that I'm still not sure of jumping into Total War Warhammer that early. I want to see reviews. I want to see how what my friends think of it. I want to see what a YouTuber or somebody else in the community on the forums thinks of it. And I think that's kind of fair enough. Certainly in this day and age, absolutely. But also, we've obviously got a long history of Total War games, and Rome 2 was our last truly big title, followed up by Attila, and we had a rocky launch with Rome 2, and we really wanted to kind of make amends with everything that we've done since for some of the dissatisfaction some fans had with that. So I think we are in a position where we need to prove that Warhammer's as great a game as we believe it's going to be, and by offering Chaos Warriors for just that little bit longer, hopefully that will push a few more people over the fence into buying it and making them feel happier,
sure,
that they can see what the reviews look like.
I think the reaction to it was generally pretty positive as well, which must have been a relief to see. But so to clarify, do the Chaos Warriors exist without DLC? Like, is it that straightforward a business decision that you need to sell this content for an extra amount to make it happen?
Yeah, so I think it's certainly true to say that the original scope of the project was to have Chaos Warriors as a what do you call it, sort of like an end game boss, like the baddie at the end of the title when you the game you whichever game you're playing within Total Warhammer, you'd kind of come up against this Chaos incursion coming down from the north, and the original plan was to have that be a nice surprise, a kind of a really great kind of end game experience, but it would be they'd be fairly sort of limited in how they were detailed. I mean, Chaos, we're really sort of looking at the tip of the iceberg as far as Chaos's presence in the old world and the Warhammer world goes, because there's all sorts of Chaos gods and demons and powers and different sort of factions within Chaos that we're not even touching on yet, and we've got plans for the future and things that we hope will develop further. But we thought they're so sort of synonymous with the Warhammer world that it'd be great to kind of throw them in as that challenge for the player, but they would be in quite a limited capacity. So when we were looking at what we could do for a pre-order bonus and something to kind of help us with all those kind of day one and week one aspirations for the game, we settled on fleshing out Chaos Warriors into a fully playable race as something that was, well, it just made a lot of sense, and we hoped it'd be popular and incentivizing for someone to get hold of. So we take that kind of small roster of units that would exist in the game anyway, and then we add in 3 legendary lords, a load more units. We add in the quest chains and the mechanic that kind of underpins their use on the campaign map, and all of that extra is contained within that additional DLC, which comes free for pre-orders in week 1.
Sure, I'm sure you understand that some players will have looked at it, and I think the reaction was partly came from a place that
Rome 2, which you mentioned, hugely successful game for Creative Assembly, especially in terms of pre-orders. I think it's the most pre-ordered Total War game.
Yep.
It had that shaky launch, and some players will look at another big pre-order incentive and think, you know, if I pre-order it now, what's to say that it launches? And I regret that decision. Do you understand?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that in the wake of Rome 2, you know, we hope that we showed a lot of support for that title, and culminated that in the Emperor Edition, which added an entire new campaign expansion to the game for free, along with, you know, a lot of mechanical reworkings as well, which was something, you know, we really wanted to do, because Mike Simpson came out and said at the time that he wanted Rome 2 to be thought of as one of, if not the best, Total War game over time, and we had a very clear objective to make that happen. So, you know, that was part of it. A lot of the updates and the patches that we put out for that game all hopefully kind of built together with that. But, you know, we completely understand that, you know, we've got to build back that trust over time. It doesn't happen overnight, and we've got a lot of good content coming up, and good games and great games behind us and in front of us, and we think that, you know, eventually we're going to get onto that kind of even keel where people see, you know, new Total War content as an unequivocally good thing.
Sure.
That might not be possible with today's internet necessarily, but
right.
You know, we've got some work to do. We think we've, you know, made a huge leap forward with Attila. We're hoping that, you know, Warhammer is a fantastic good show in that same sort of vein as well.
I get the sense that the studio's pretty confident about it, just through the amount of gameplay that you've shown and hands-on time that you've provided. I've been here today to basically recreate the Blackfire Pass battle, like the first big thing that you showed off. The fact that you're inviting people in to do that and showing a lot of this on YouTube suggests that you're pretty happy with where Total War Warhammer is, and the state is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when you're spending so long working on a title like this, it's difficult not to be really enthusiastic about what you're working on, and you know, what you're putting your heart and soul into, and you know, me in marketing is like the least of that. You know, there are guys out there kind of, you know, designing and crafting this game, and you know, really pouring heart and soul into it for years. So of course, you know, we're confident in it. That's what we do here at Creative Assembly with Total War games. You know, we make the best possible games we can.
Sure.
Might not always be as everybody's idea of a really great game, but you know, what we want to do is create that really kind of high watermark, not just for strategy gaming, but for the industry as a whole. And I certainly think with the amount of like gameplay and stuff that we've been able to show on Warhammer, that
so much,
absolutely, and even more coming up to launch is what we're running around doing at the moment. You know, we really want people to be excited by it. We really want to get people to see what the game looks like running, because there's so much in there that I think only by showing it can you really kind of explain what it's there to do. But I think it's also you know, it's a really it's been a really interesting game to work on, because you're always again kind of balancing people's idea of what's in the game with and you know, they might have constructed out of their own kind of wants and desires of what again is kind of practically possible. And that's always a kind of a really interesting sort of space to operate in, I think.
Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this interview, you may like some of the other things we've done with Total War Warhammer. I'd recommend this one on the right if you've played a lot of Total War games. The series has had some trouble getting sieges right in the past, so what makes them, in the developer's own words, remarkably different this time around? Take a look at that if you like. It's got some new gameplay at the end too, which is nice. Cheers.